Question 212. Which service would you use to reduce the overhead of manually assigning permissions to a set of resources? And the options are A. Azure Logic Apps, B. Azure Policy, C. Azure Trust Center, D. Azure Resource Manager. And the correct answer is option D. Azure Resource Manager. Explanation. Azure Resource Manager is the deployment and management service for Azure. It provides a management layer that enables you to create, update, and delete resources in your Azure account. You use management features like access control, locks, and tags to secure and organize your resources after deployment. To learn about Azure Resource Manager templates, see the ARM template overview. Next question. It is possible to deploy a new Azure Virtual Network using Power Automate on a Google Chromebook. And the options are A. No, B. Yes, and the correct answer is option A. No. Next question. The Microsoft Dash provides a variety of content, tools, and other resources about Microsoft security, privacy, and compliance practices. And the options are A. Blueprints, B. Advisor, C. Service Trust Portal, D. Privacy Policy. And the correct answer is option C. Service Trust Portal. Explanation. The Microsoft Service Trust Portal provides a variety of content, tools, and other resources about Microsoft security, privacy, and compliance practices. The Service Trust Portal contains details about Microsoft's implementation of controls and processes that protect our cloud services and the customer data therein. To access some of the resources on the Service Trust Portal, you must log in as an authenticated user with your Microsoft Cloud Services account and review and accept the Microsoft Non-Disclosure Agreement for compliance materials. Next question. All resources in a VNet can communicate outbound to the internet by default. And the options are A. No, B. Yes, and the correct answer is option B. Yes. Explanation. Azure Virtual Network is the fundamental building block for your private network in Azure. VNet enables many types of Azure resources, such as Azure Virtual Machines, to securely communicate with each other, the internet, and on-premises networks. VNet is similar to a traditional network that you would operate in your own data center, but brings with it additional benefits of Azure's infrastructure such as scale, availability, and isolation. All resources in a VNet can communicate outbound to the internet by default. You can communicate inbound to a resource by assigning a public IP address or a public load balancer. You can also use public IP or public load balancer to manage your outbound connections. To learn more about outbound connections in Azure, see Outbound Connections, Public IP Addresses, and a Load Balancer. Next question. Dash lets you extend your on-premises networks into the Microsoft Cloud over a private connection with the help of a connectivity provider. And the options are A. Azure Express Route, B. Azure Sentinel, C. Azure DNS, D. Azure Firewall, E. Azure Virtual Network. And the correct answer is option A. Azure Express Route. Explanation. Express Route lets you extend your on-premises networks into the Microsoft Cloud over a private connection with the help of a connectivity provider. With Express Route, you can establish connections to Microsoft Cloud services such as Microsoft Azure and Microsoft 365. Connectivity can be from any to any IP VPN network, a point-to-point Ethernet network, or a virtual cross-connection through a connectivity provider at a colocation facility. Express route connections don't go over the public internet. This allows express route connections to offer more reliability, faster speeds, consistent latencies, and higher security than typical connections over the internet. For information on how to connect your network to Microsoft using Express Route, see Express Route connectivity models. Next question. Azure Cosmos DB is the software as a service SaaS offering from Microsoft Azure. And the options are A. No, it is a PaaS offering. B. No, it is an IaaS offering. C. Yes, it is a SaaS offering. And the correct answer is option A. No, it is a PaaS offering. Explanation. Azure Cosmos DB is an example of a platform as a service offering. Next question. You have been planning to decommission your on-prem database hosting gigabytes of data. Which of the following is true about data ingress moving into for Azure? And the options are A. It is charged per hour of data transferred. B. It is charged $0.05 per TB. C. It is free of cost. D. It is charged $0.05 per GB. And the correct answer is option C. It is free of cost. Explanation. Bandwidth refers to data moving in and out of Azure data centers, as well as data moving between Azure data centers. Other transfers are explicitly covered by the content delivery network, express route pricing or peering. Next question. A dash in Azure Monitor monitors your telemetry and captures a signal to see if the signal meets the criteria of a preset condition. If the conditions are met, an alert is triggered, which initiates the associated action group. And the options are A. Preset rule, B. Preset condition, C. Alert condition, D. Alert rule. And the correct answer is option D. Alert rule. Explanation. Alerts help you detect and address issues before users notice them by proactively notifying you when Azure Monitor data indicates that there may be a problem with your infrastructure or application. You can alert on any metric or log data source in the Azure Monitor data platform. An alert rule monitors your telemetry and captures a signal that indicates that something is happening on a specified target. The alert rule captures the signal and checks to see if the signal meets the criteria of the condition. If the conditions are met, an alert is triggered, which initiates the associated action group and updates the state of the alert. Next question. Dash brings signals together to make decisions and enforce organizational policies. In simple terms, they are if-then statements. If a user wants to access a resource, then they must complete an action. And the options are A. Conditional access, B. Logical access, C. Active Directory access, D. Demand access. And the correct answer is option A. Conditional access. Explanation. The modern security perimeter now extends beyond an organization's network to include user and device identity. Organizations can use identity-driven signals as part of their access control decisions. Conditional access brings signals together to make decisions and enforce organizational policies. Azure AD conditional access is at the heart of the new identity-driven control plane. Conditional access policies at their simplest are if-then statements. If a user wants to access a resource, then they must complete an action. Example. A payroll manager wants to access the payroll application and is required to do multi-factor authentication to access it. Administrators are faced with two primary goals. Number 1, empower users to be productive wherever and whenever. Number 2, protect the organization's assets. Next question. Which of the following two storage solutions are built to handle NoSQL data? And the options are A. Azure Table Storage, B. Azure NoSQL Database, C. Azure SQL Database, D. Azure Cosmos DB. And the correct answer is option A. Azure Table Storage and option D. Azure Cosmos DB. Explanation. Azure Table Storage is a service that stores non-relational structured data, also known as structured NoSQL data in the cloud, providing a key or attribute store with a schemaless design. Because table storage is schemaless, It's easy to adapt your data as the needs of your application evolve. Azure Cosmos DB is a fully managed NoSQL database for modern app development. Single-digit millisecond response times and automatic and instant scalability guarantee speed at any scale. Next question. Enforcement is at the center of a zero-trust architecture. And the options are A. Security policy, B. Identities, C. Applications, D. Network, E. Devices, F. Data. And the correct answer is option A. Security policy. Explanation. Zero Trust is a new security model that assumes breach and verifies each request as though it originated from an uncontrolled network. A zero trust approach extends throughout the entire digital estate and serves as an integrated security philosophy and end-to-end strategy. This illustration provides a representation of the primary elements that contribute to zero trust. In the illustration, number 1, security policy enforcement is at the center of a zero trust architecture. This includes multi-factor authentication with conditional access that takes into account user account risk, device status, and other criteria and policies that you set. Number 2, identities, devices, also called endpoints, data, applications, network, and other infrastructure components are all configured with appropriate security. Policies that are configured for each of these components are coordinated with your overall zero trust strategy. For example, device policies determine the criteria for healthy devices, and conditional access policies require healthy devices for access to specific apps and data. Number 3, threat protection and intelligence monitors the environment, surfaces current risk, and takes automated action to remediate attacks. Next question. Azure DNS can manage DNS records for your Azure services, but cannot provide DNS for your external resources. Is it true or false? And the correct answer is, it's false. Explanation. Azure DNS is a hosting service for DNS domains that provides name resolution by using Microsoft Azure infrastructure. By hosting your domains in Azure, you can manage your DNS records by using the same credentials, APIs, tools, and billing as your other Azure services. Azure DNS can manage DNS records for your Azure services and provide DNS for your external resources as well. Azure DNS is integrated in the Azure portal and uses the same credentials, support contract, and billing as your other Azure services. DNS billing is based on the number of DNS zones hosted in Azure and on the number of DNS queries received. To learn more about pricing, see Azure DNS pricing. Next question. If your organization has many Azure subscriptions, which of the following is useful to efficiently manage access, policies, and compliance for those subscriptions? And the options are A. Azure Management Groups, B. Azure Policy, C. Azure Subscriptions, D. Azure Blueprints. And the correct answer is option A. Azure Management Groups. Explanation. If your organization has many Azure subscriptions, you may need a way to efficiently manage access, policies, and compliance for those subscriptions. Management groups provide a governance scope above subscriptions. You organize subscriptions into management groups. The governance conditions you apply cascade by inheritance to all associated subscriptions. Management groups give you enterprise-grade management at scale no matter what type of subscriptions you might have. However, all subscriptions within a single management group must trust the same Azure Active Directory tenant. For example, you can apply policies to a management group that limits the reasons available for virtual machine creation. This policy would be applied to all nested management groups, subscriptions, and resources, and allow VM creation only in authorized reasons. Next question. Which of the following can help you automate deployments and use the practice of infrastructure as code? And the options are A. Management groups, B. Azure Arc, C. Azure IaaC, D. ARM templates. And the correct answer is option D. ARM templates. Explanation. With the move to the cloud, many teams have adopted agile development methods. These teams iterate quickly. They need to repeatedly deploy their solutions to the cloud and know their infrastructure is in a reliable state. As infrastructure has become part of the iterative process, the division between operations and development has disappeared. Teams need to manage infrastructure and application code through a unified process. To meet these challenges, you can automate deployments and use the practice of infrastructure as code. In code, you define the infrastructure that needs to be deployed. The infrastructure code becomes part of your project. Just like application code, you store the infrastructure code in a source repository and version it. Any one of your team can run the code and deploy similar environments. To implement infrastructure as code for your Azure solutions, use Azure Resource Manager templates. The template is a JavaScript object notation JSON file that defines the infrastructure and configuration for your project. The template uses declarative syntax which lets you state that what you intend to deploy without having to write the sequence of programming commands to create it. In the template, you specify the resources to deploy and the properties for those resources. Next question. Someone in your organization accidentally deleted an important virtual machine that has led to huge revenue losses. Your senior management has tasked you with investigating who was responsible for the deletion. Which Azure service can you leverage for this task? And the options are A. Azure Event Hubs, B. Azure Monitor, C. Azure Service Health, D. Azure Arc, E. Azure Advisor. And the correct answer is option B. Azure Monitor. Explanation. Log Analytics is a tool in the Azure portal that's used to edit and run log queries with data in Azure Monitor logs. You might write a simple query that returns a set of records and then use features of Log Analytics to sort, filter, and analyze them. Or you might write a more advanced query to perform statistical analysis and visualize the results in a chart to identify a particular trend. Whether you work with the results of your queries interactively or use them with other Azure Monitor features, such as log query alerts or workbooks, Log Analytics is the tool that you will use to write and test them. Azure Advisor, incorrect, analyzes your configurations and uses telemetry and offers personalized actionable recommendations to help you optimize your Azure resources for reliability, security, operational excellence, performance, and cost. Azure Service Health, incorrect, helps you stay informed and take action with alerts for outages and a personalized dashboard for service issues. Thank you for watching this video. Buy our AZ 900 premium questions with 50% off. Check link in the description.